Hey yo, what's up my little coders? In this tutorial, let's talk about the dependency injection. And for that, we're going to use today Spring Boot Java framework, which is used to create microservices and web apps, and which also provides support for the dependency injection. And even if you're not trying to learn and understand the Spring Boot framework and just want to find out only about the dependency injection, you can still benefit from this video as the similar core principles and benefits of the dependency injection remain consistent across different frameworks and programming languages. I will try to explain the dependency injection concepts as simply as possible. But first of all, let's start with the real example and let's think about the scenario for our potential application which can benefit from the dependency injection. Imagine that we have a hotel which has some robots that help us to serve our guests. Now imagine that in that hotel we have a restaurant. When guests come to that restaurant for some food, the robot would greet our guests and maybe would do some suggestions in terms of the meals. Since a restaurant is a business, the suggestions might be based on the food which we need to sell. Like if we have a few bags of mushrooms that would expire tomorrow, it would make sense for our robot to offer something that contains mushrooms, like mushroom risotto as an example, so that we can sell our mushrooms as quickly as possible and would not have any waste. Or if we have a lot of apples, the robot would offer apple pie. You got an idea, right? Now let's look at our code for that example. This is our REST controller class in which we define our REST API endpoints. Imagine that we have this GetRequest endpoint, so every time a robot sees some new guests, it would make a call to this get endpoint, and this endpoint would return a string with the greeting phrase and would offer the right meal as well. Let's not care about the meal instructions logic for now, let's just imagine that we have some code here that would do it for us. Maybe it would call another service to extract the most appropriate meal, or would query the database, whatever it is, doesn't really matter for this example. What really matters for us is another class which is called greeting service. Imagine that instead of saying hi to the customer, we want to call this method from a greeting service class, and based on the current time, this method would greet our guests accordingly. Like if it's a morning time right now, it would say good morning. If it's afternoon, it would say good afternoon. Else it would say good evening. Now the question is, how can we leverage the functionality of this class? Possibly you might think that we can just create an instance of this class inside our getRequest code and call this method. Simply as that. And yes, that would work. However, if I extend the greeting service class a bit and would add the following piece of code here, if I just simply create a static integer and I would increment this integer by 1 inside the simple constructor, and then if I would write the get method for that instance, just to return its value, this would allow me to calculate how many times we create an instance of this class, because the memory for static variables is allocated once, regardless the number of instances of the class created. So every time the instance of this class would get created, the instance count variable would get incremented. If I call the getInstanceCount method inside my getRequest endpoint definition, I can print the number of instances of the greeting service which was created. And let me rerun my application. So if I hit the endpoint, we can see that only one instance of the greeting service class was created. However, if I hit the same endpoint one more time, a second instance gets created, and so on. So each instance of this class would be stored in a heap memory. And yes, in Java we have a garbage collector which would remove the unused objects when they are not needed anymore. However, we don't know when exactly it would happen and how many objects we would create before that. Imagine that we have thousands of robots that would call this endpoint. Do we need to create a new instance of the greeting service every time when we would call exactly the same method for each request? Obviously not. But okay, you might say to me, let's just move this line of code outside of the getRequest method and that's it. We would create only one instance, it's an easy fix. Yes, that would improve our memory management for sure, but what would happen if we have a spa in our hotel and we have a robot which also leverages our greeting service? Let's run our application and let's see what happens. You can see that we create two instances of the greeting service class, which is not that bad because two is not a lot. And this is true, but imagine an enterprise application. Sometimes one class might be used by thousands of other classes, and there are tons of dependencies. What will be the best way to manage these dependencies? And finally, guys, we are getting to the main point of this video, which is the dependency injection. So, in our case, we have two GET requests which depend on the greeting service class, right? The greeting service is our dependency for the restaurant controller and the spa controller as well. How can these two controllers inject this dependency in a most appropriate way? They can do it by using a dependency injection technique. One of the examples of it would be to just have an instance of a greeting service here. We can remove the instantiation of it. After that, we can use a Spring Boot annotation called AutoVared on that instance. AutoVared is an annotation used for automatic dependency injection in Spring. So, this controller would inject the instance of this class into itself. However, in order for it to work, we also need to add one more annotation to the class itself. We need to add a component annotation. And when you annotate a class with a component annotation, Spring recognizes it as a candidate for auto detection and automatic bin registration. And a bin itself is an object that is managed by the Spring container. It's an instance of a class that is created, configured, and maintained by the Spring framework. So, we basically tell here to Spring to create an instance of this class and manage its lifecycle within the Spring container. Simply as that. Now, if I rerun my code, you can see that we created only one instance of greeting service class. So again, greeting service class is the dependency, and both of our controllers depend on that dependency, and we injected that dependency by using some Spring annotations. So we can leverage its functionality now, the functionality of the greeting service class. And the reason why we have only one instance of that class created, even though we declare this in two places, is because by default, Spring Boot makes all the classes that you inject into some other classes to be singletons. In our case, it absolutely makes sense for this class to be a singleton class. There is no need to create more than one instance of it. However, if for any reason you do not want the class to be a singleton class, you can add some additional annotations and it would do the job. Spring Framework is very powerful and it allows you to do plenty of different things. And also, one important thing to mention is the class annotation. We use the component annotation, which is the most generic one. Again, what it does for our class is that it helps this class to be automatically detected and registered as a Spring bin during the component scan. However, it's not the only option. We can replace this component annotation with a service annotation as well. Technically, component and service annotations are the same. If I go here, you can see that a service annotation is an alias for a component annotation. The reason why there is more than one annotation is to just provide a business clarity, expressiveness, and organization to your code base. For example, the component annotation is a generic one. The service annotation should be used to define a service layer which encapsulates business logic and performs operations such as data manipulation, calculations, or calling external APIs. In our case, since we have a greeting service which kind of performs some data manipulation, I would choose the service annotation here for it. But also, if your class is used to, let's say, handle some database operations and data access logic, you should use a repository annotation. But in our case, we do not deal with the databases, so repository would not be the right candidate for us. As I mentioned, component annotation is a generic one, so here it would be okay-ish, but the service annotation would be the best one for this particular example. But from the technical perspective, they would do the same job. So, if you put any of these three annotations, in our case, we would be able to achieve exactly the same goal. We would be able to do a proper dependency injection. But, just to give you some insights into how to structure your code properly. Hope it makes sense now. Let's move on. Now, I hope that you understood what is the dependency injection and how it actually works. But let's talk about all the benefits which it can bring to us. One of the benefits of a dependency injection is maintainability. With the right use of a dependency injection, your classes can be loosely coupled and follow the single responsibility principle. And obviously, simple and standalone classes are easier to fix compared to the complicated and tightly coupled classes. Then testability. Dependency injection greatly enhances the testability of your code, because loosely coupled classes that only do one thing can be unit tested much easier than tightly coupled classes. Also, by injecting dependencies, you can easily provide mock or stub implementations of those dependencies during testing. This allows you to write more focused unit tests. Then readability. Code that uses dependency injection is just more straightforward. It follows the single responsibility principle and thus results in smaller, more compact, and to the point classes. And the last one, flexibility. As I already have mentioned, with the right use of a dependency injection, you can achieve a loosely coupled code, and when you have smaller classes which do one thing, it means that your code can be reassembled and reused in different situations, which gives you a lot of flexibility. These are four main benefits of a dependency injection, at least in my opinion. But there are also a lot of other smaller benefits as well. And if you write a code in Java, and especially if you're learning a Spring framework, this is just a standard and you need to know it, understand it, and also leverage it. So definitely practice the dependency injection concepts. And then coming back to the code. In this tutorial, we have covered a field-based dependency injection. So in this class we have an out-of-word annotation on top of the field. However, this is only one way to leverage the dependency injection technique. You can also do a constructor injection, setter injection, method injection, or even an interface injection. But I didn't want to make this video to be too long because it's already quite long. But in case if you're interested to see how to leverage other types of dependency injection, please let me know in the comment section and I will make another videos on that topic. And also, if you want to see videos about the Spring Boot on my channel, please give me a like and subscribe so that I would be able to see that it's needed. And yeah, I hope that this tutorial was useful to you, and now you understand the dependency injection. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in my next videos. Good luck.